I'm back with my next video. So now we've sort of talked about stem cells, what they are, where they are, let's talk about how we can use them. So moving on to uses. Number one, bone marrow transplants. This I think is absolutely amazing. It can basically treat any kind of non-communicable disease of a blood cell. So example that I can use is multiple sclerosis. So I'll tell you a story about, and I really want to show you the video of this, but I just could not find it anywhere, but I've watched the video many times. A man called Stephen, one day when he was in his 40s, developed multiple sclerosis. Now it literally came out of the blue. He felt fine and was walking across the road one minute, and the next minute he felt, as he described, like he was melting away, and he just melted into a puddle on the floor. So he said, but basically his muscles stopped working and he couldn't go any further and he fell. He was then diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is an autoimmune disease, which means your white blood cells attack the myelin sheath in your nerve cells until they don't function. That then leads to lots of problems, and it's degenerative, so it gets worse. You can't cure it. It can lead to paralysis, blindness, problems speaking, problems swallowing, you name it. You're lucky if you get it and it's a delayed worsening. So some people get it and it gets worse very, very slowly, and they can have it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. This man was very different. He went from being a very fit, healthy, normal man to within a year being paralysed and not in a wheelchair and not able to walk, and to a year after that being in hospital and needing care constantly. Now he decided to undergo stem cell therapy, which basically meant that he had chemotherapy that killed off his immune system basically, and destroyed his bone marrow and any white blood cells in his blood. He then had a bone marrow transplant in the hope that those new stem cells could reproduce an immune system that wasn't going to attack his nerve cells. This was a success. So he describes that within a week, bearing in mind he previously had been absolutely paralysed and under constant care, within a week he was able to flicker his toe and see it and feel it and make it happen, which sounds like something quite small, but for him it was a massive deal. Within about 6 months, he was able to very slowly but ride a bike. And within a year, he wasn't perfect, but he was starting to walk again, albeit with sticks and very slow. But within a year, he was able to walk. So bone marrow transplant changed his life completely. Other things that they think they could maybe treat like this: leukemia, so that's cancer of the white blood cells, sickle cell anemia, which is a problem with your red blood cells, and SCID, severe combined immunodeficiency disorder, which is basically where your immune system doesn't work at all and you're at risk to a lot of infections. That picture represents it. You might have heard of the boy in the bubble before. That's the disease he had. We then can think about just general research. Now we know when we're doing clinical trials or preclinical trials that we need human tissues and cells to experiment on. Now we need these donated. Now realistically, if we could just grow our own source of cells that we could have, we would have access to a wide range of different types of cells because we could make them differentiate when we wanted them to, or just basic stem cells that we could rely on. Then we're not relying on people to donate, we're not relying on anything, so we can research kind of at our own pace, and it would be easier and probably cheaper. Also, you know, it might cut down on animal testing a bit, and that means not only is it fairer on the animals, but it also gives the researchers going to be more reliable. Diseases, again, like multiple sclerosis, talked about that. This was interesting. So basically anything that you could lose, could it be treated? Now this is something that's very much theoretical. We've not tried it to a full extent yet. The idea that anything that's not okay in your body, so whether it's because you have organ failure and you need an organ donor, so heart transplant, kidney transplant, you name it. In fact, I was going to say fun fact, it's not a fun fact at all, it's a horrible fact. 2/3 of people die on the organ donation waiting list because there isn't enough donors. This can alleviate that. We are thinking that you could, if you had a problem, you could take some of your stem cells, say out of your bone marrow, or potentially some of your normal cells, and send them signals to make them differentiate into the cell you want, and you could effectively grow your own organ. It could also be done to replace damaged cells. So Let's say you had a car accident and it damaged your vertebra and you were paralysed. Could we grow a new vertebra or new tissues or new nerve tissues in order to replace them? Could it help, again, people with multiple sclerosis? Could it help people with Alzheimer's who've got part of their brain cells that are turning into plaques? Could it help people recover from strokes? All these different things, if we could just use stem cells to grow our own organs. It's an amazing, wonderful area of science that we could just keep developing. However, there are some downsides. Some people think it's great because we're going to cure diseases, we're going to help lifespans. If we do it to animals, perhaps it could save them from extinction. We could kind of make a more superior race. Some people think that's bad, it's playing God. Is it fair to experiment on embryos? And, you know, if we allow that to happen, are people going to be getting pregnant and having abortions just to donate their embryos? Is that right? Who knows? So there's lots of arguments for and against. Apologies that this has been a much shorter video, because I'm just in a rage about my wonderful long one earlier. Please, please, please think about what I've said. Go through the links that I've provided. Go onto YouTube, go and research different ways that stem cell therapies are being treated. Find some good information. Send those links to me and I can send them to everyone, because there are so many videos out there about treatments. Okay, so maybe find a story like I said about the man, that someone's being treated with something somewhere. You need to have your fors and against at the end to kind of sort it out. So make sure you are reading the page in the textbook. I hope that all makes sense.